morning, shine, shine, shine. Las Vegas, shine your light on me.
Welcome to Las Vegas Tonight. Join award-winning host Dale Davidson as he interviews the most remarkable people you'll find in the entertainment capital of the world. You'll meet entertainers, sports figures, newsmakers, community and business leaders, and people just like you with stories that'll touch your heart. Now, here's Dale Davidson.
Welcome to Las Vegas Tonight. I'm your host, Dale Davidson. Each and every week at this time, we bring you fascinating guests. They're often from Las Vegas, not always, but often, and that's the case today. This is Eddie Blackwell. Eddie is a wonderful human being, a good friend. He's got some fascinating stories about his life and his journey with Christ. Eddie, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it very much. Nice to see you again.
Good to be here.
Yeah. You were on the program about 4 years ago, I think.
4 years ago,
yeah. And we talked about the Chaplain's Bookstore, which you were running at the time. Yeah. And you still have dreams about that. We'll get into that in a second. But you're a real solid Christian man. You do more than just about anybody I know. Let's talk a little bit about your ministries right now. You have a disability ministry, and you've done that for years.
My main one really is Johnny Erickson Tata and disability. So much to say about that. We wouldn't have. I could spend a whole hour just on it.
Yeah.
And then I have a bread ministry now, which came out of nowhere. And
where you're passing out baked goods and things like that.
Now I'm bringing it to churches and food banks and that. And it's incredible. I just love it. And then naturally I take people to doctors and everything.
Yeah.
Like I have to take someone this afternoon.
Yeah.
They go to a cancer doctor. And
wow.
And I'm just so grateful that God gives me the energy and the ability to do it.
Sure.
So many of these people I take, they're stuck in their apartments and their houses. And so now.
And are lonely and they have needs and so, can't drive, many of them. And
many of them can't drive.
And you're there.
And I'm there to take them. And especially when you got a place like Horizon Ridge or Tenaya.
Yeah.
Buses don't go that way. You might need 3 different buses and not even get close. And here I am, no problem.
Boom.
I'm right there. And I don't charge them.
Yeah, I know you don't.
Every now and then I get fortunate. They drop me some gas money, but it's not. God supplies it.
You've got a great handicap van.
And I got a handicap van that somehow
it still runs.
Putting some bandages on it, but it works. It works.
Yeah, before you were doing this, you were a cabbie, but you drove a disability van for the cab company too, didn't you?
And that's the whole thing. How God blessed me when I came back to Vegas. And there's 150 guys ahead of me in seniority in the cab company.
Wow.
And what does he do? He gives me a brand new wheelchair accessible van with 4,000 miles.
Wow.
Then I wanted Saturday and Sunday off because I wanted to sell Christian t-shirts and the swap meet and everything.
Yes.
On the weekend.
Yeah.
And of the 150 ahead of me, at least 25 would have wanted Saturday and Sunday off, but I got it. So everything, this was God just working there. I owed money in California, my master charges and that. And I would call up and I said, I'm sending you 200. And I said, how come? I said, always send more. I said, how come I'm never going down? I said, send more. And how am I going to send more? I'm covered. I owed like $18,000 and just in a cab thing. But I got blessed with the cab. They would give me $20 tips, $50 tips, and I mean, it was just coming. God was watching over me. Then when that guy said, "Well, send more money," the next week the cab company said, "All you wheelchair drivers, you don't have to pay for gas."
There
so
you
right
go.
there, that was 10 a day, at least 10 a day.
Sure.
So that's 50 a week, 200 a month. So they gave me the extra money that they wanted
to send to the credit card company.
The funniest part is, after that, the regular drivers said, "How come we don't get a gas allowance?" So they said, "Okay, you guys, if you don't miss a day for 3 months, we'll give you a $500 bonus."
Wow.
And you got to be there every day, 5-day week. You got to be there.
Right.
But not that didn't include us because we had.
They were doing
it
anyway, yeah.
So one day I came to work and they said, your cab is in the shop. They gave me a regular cab. And so I drove the regular cab that day. And for that reason, I'm on the list for the regular cabs. So when the 3 months was over, my supervisor smiled. He was a Christian.
Yeah.
And he smiled, and all the guys were getting envelopes with a $500 check. And he says, come on, Eddie.
And he gave you one.
And he smiled, and they gave me and I got it for 4 times more.
Wow.
The whole year, I got 500, and I never paid for gas.
That's fantastic.
So that was God. It was all God taking care of me, and that wise guy say, send more money. So God made sure I had more money to send.
That's great. That's great.
I mean, it was just incredible.
That's fantastic
people
story.
that I met and in the cab business and.
Wow. Let's talk about, you mentioned Christ. Let's talk about how you came to Christ. And then I want to hear some about the very colorful history of Eddie Blackwell. But first of all, how did you decide that Christ really was your Lord and Savior?
Well, I was in the world for 63 years.
63 years. See, folks?
63
It's never
years,
too late.
You know. I mean, I was a Catholic. I was raised a Catholic. I made my communion confirmation. And then, I got married when I was 15 and a half years old.
Wow.
And it was just, God was just, I believe in God. I mean, I believe in God. Every time I robbed the bank and got away with it, I said, thanks, God, like he had my back, And that's how much, But here I am, I'm 63, and I meet this Mexican lady that's 48. She was an old Catholic, too,
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about God, but we got married.
Right.
And for the first 6 months, it was beautiful. We went about our business. Then all of a sudden, she had 4 sons.
Right.
Four old children. She had 4 young children that lived with us.
Oh.
The 4 older ones were all married, and they were all strong Christians.
Mm.
And they convinced her to become a Christian. So she came home one day. I'm a Christian. Get out of here. That holy roly stuff.
I don't want to hear.
I haven't been in church in 50 years. I'm a Catholic. And she would go to church Wednesday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday, and the driver would come because the church was like 30 miles away.
Wow.
The driver would come in, and I'd be sitting there, and he says, "Hi, brother Eddie." I'm not your brother. I was rude and nasty and everything like that. And finally, after 2 years, she kept praying, she kept smiling, and that whole church prayed for me. And then finally, I'm coming home one day, and I always, just before I go up on the hill, we lived up on top of a hill, and I said, Lord, help me, I'm tired. And that Holy Spirit must have just been waiting on us. We got to wait for us.
Yeah.
I just threw the cigarettes away. I used to pull over and goggle my mouth out so she wouldn't know I had a few beers, and spray my hair so she didn't know I smoked.
Right.
And he took the smoking, the drinking, and the cursing. I used to curse every other word. Every other word was a curse word. And and here I am. Now I come home, and there was a Spanish pastor talking to her, trying to get her to help him in the American church because he wanted a Spanish thing there.
Yeah.
And they saw me, and it must have been a glow on me. And they took me down to the church, and I accepted Jesus in Spanish. Then the American pastor was there. He said, wait a minute, let's do it one more time in English. And so I accepted it, and I was on fire. After that, now before then, I used to yell at her because we were at the swap meet selling, and she put a track in the bag, What are you doing? Don't be giving them, these are my customers. Don't be putting that garbage in there.
Right.
And now I'm on fire. I'm telling them I'm buying tracks, and now I go to LA and I buy Christian T-shirts and hats and gloves and everything you could think of, and those people are all looking at me. What happened to this guy? I used to wholesale to them, and now all of a sudden all it is Jesus loves me and God and everything, and Jesus is your boss, and and it was beautiful. And the wholesale people didn't like it because I wasn't wholesaling to them no more.
Yeah.
But the retail people, they were all been praying for me, and I didn't even know it.
Oh, is that right? They were Christians.
So they were just buying a blouse or not wholesale, just retail. I had good prices on everything.
Yeah. And
they were just nice, and I was friendly to everybody anyway, And then now they were all smiling, and they said, "Ooh, can you get me a 5X?" You know, because I'm a big woman. And I got 4X, 5X, and it was just beautiful.
Oh,
And
that's great.
and now it was, can you get me a dozen of those and a dozen of these?
Yeah.
You know, because now
For church members and family members and whatever, yeah.
Church members will come, oh, this is beautiful. We want to give it all to our church.
Yeah.
I like one Addicted to Jesus.
Right.
You know, and they got the Adidas logo there.
Oh, yeah.
Addicted to Jesus.
Right.
And the one I like best for the ladies, mostly because they had doves around there, was keep working for the Lord. The pay isn't much, but the retirement plan is it is royal. And I love it.
That's great, Eddie. That's
I got
great.
to be a radical Christian.
I know, and you still are. You still are. We're going to need to take a real brief break. You've probably noticed that Eddie has a New York accent, specifically a Bronx accent. And we're going to talk about the Bronx in the good old days and what it was like growing up there. We'll be back with Eddie Blackwell right after these messages.
Potential audience of more than 50 million people is reached every week by Las Vegas Tonight. To keep the important message of Christ's love on the air, we need your prayers and financial blessings. Please send your tax-deductible gift to Dale Davidson Ministries, 9030 West Sahara Avenue, number 255, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89117. For a donation of $25 or more, we'll send you a copy of Dale Davidson's new book, Las Vegas Tonight, From Sin City to Vegas Saints. You'll love these inspiring stories of Las Vegas Christians who are changing the world. Or donate to the ministry, or order Dale's book by going to vegassaints.org. That's vegassaints.org. Or call us today at 702-480-3989. That's 480-3989. God bless you.
Welcome back to Las Vegas Tonight. I'm your host, Dale Davidson. We have a fascinating, wonderful guest. And if you've watched the first segment, you know how entertaining Eddie Blackwell can be. Thanks for joining us again, Eddie.
It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, let's talk about the Bronx. When you first came to Vegas, were people a little surprised by the accent?
Certainly. That's for sure.
So you said when you were driving, sometimes people would say...
I love it when I'm driving a cab, you know, and I'm talking to the guy, and then all of a sudden, he goes, "Where you from?" I said, "The South." He said, "The South?" "Yeah, South Bronx." And it was beautiful. I just had fun with my passengers, you know. And,
had to be a joy to ride with you.
Most was the guy says, "Oh, I'm from New Jersey," you know.
Uh-huh.
I said, "Oh, sorry about that." He says, "What are you talking about?" You know. I said, "Well, you probably don't know this, but when God made the world, He made New York." And an angel came and said, "Hey, there's still more people." He said, "Stick them in Jersey." You know. And I love saying that because, number one, I got God in the conversation.
Right.
Always got in. The best was there's a church right by the Excalibur.
Yeah.
And on Sunday morning or Monday morning, people are going back to the airport.
Sure.
I go right by there, on Reno there, right by that. I said, "Isn't that a beautiful Catholic church? You know, a beautiful church?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "You know the difference between the people that pray in that church and the people that pray in the casino? They're half tired anyway. They just spent a weekend in Vegas." And I said, "No." I said, "The people that pray in the casino really mean it." It was just beautiful. You know?
That's great.
The main point was I always wanted to get God in the conversation.
Yeah.
And naturally, 95% of the people that come here don't really want to hear about God.
Yeah.
The ones that did, better than a tip, when I dropped them off at the airport, we got out and we hugged each other.
Oh, that's wonderful.
God bless you, God bless you.
That's wonderful.
That was better than any monetary tip and everything like that.
That's fantastic, yeah.
And that was the whole thing.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about the Bronx. You grew up in the Bronx, and what was that like? Was this the 40s?
This is, the 40s.
Yeah, yeah.
I was born in 35, so this is 1945, 46, 47 was my my era. This is my time.
Yeah.
There's about 300 kids on my block. You know,
wow.
Like 6 Eddies. I was like little Eddie.
Yeah.
And I hung out with the 14-year-old. When I was 10, 11, 12, I hung out with the 12, 14-year-olds and the 18-year-olds. But let me start with the right around 11. These guys were 14.
Yeah.
And we went over to the Coca-Cola factory.
Right.
And we climbed over this fence. It's a big factory, 15-foot fence. And in it is pallets of Coke bottles, empty Coke bottles.
Sure.
Okay, one pallet, another pallet, all the way up to the ceiling, about 20 feet high. We climb up and we take the bottles out and put them in another place, a whole case of bottles out. Now we had a whole floor, an empty pallet, and that was our hangout, and we sat there. Now, that was our hangout, but I later on I called it a clubhouse, what do we call it, the treehouse.
The treehouse.
And when I saw one of your thing, I called it a treehouse. But it was a clubhouse for us in those days. But here's the thing. On our block, we lived on 160th. The Coca-Cola factory was on 165th Street. So we get to 163rd Street, and there's Sheffield's Milk. And there's a conveyor belt with milk, freshly milked bottles going from one point to another.
Right.
We sneak in there and grab a couple of bottles.
Right.
Okay? Right next door, half a block away, is Cushman's Bakery.
You were all set.
And here's apple pies and everything, cherry pies, and they're on a rack, a rolling rack, set outside to cool.
Yeah.
It just came out of the oven.
Right.
And nobody's looking at them, you know. And
sure.
We grab a couple of that. And now, you gotta remember there's about 4 of us, you know, me and 3 other guys. And now, way across the street is a magazine distributor. And he's got bundles of magazine, comic books, and everything, waiting for the driver to come to deliver them to wherever they were going to go.
Right.
And you figured that out. We got it. So we grab a bundle. Now we get to the Coca-Cola factory. We slide it under, but getting it up to the top was hard.
Up to the 20 feet up.
But the effort was worth it. And here we are sitting on an empty crate, drinking milk, eating pie, and reading the latest Superman comic or sports. We loved sports.
Yeah.
We knew everything about hockey, basketball, football, baseball. We were walking encyclopedias of that. And that was fun.
And now, you were living off the fat of the land.
And what a life, you know.
Yeah.
And now we're getting ready to leave. So when we go down, we throw the empty bottles underneath the thing, and we go deposit them. We get 2 cents a bottle. So I made money. We had a beautiful day. We made money.
Oh, that's funny.
Now this was right around. I was probably 11. Now some guy that's 14 takes me to Yankee Stadium. This is my greatest thing. I was just 11.
And you are Mr. Yankee.
Stadium, and I get to work for Barney Epworth. They call him Fats, a big fat guy. Beautiful man. He lived in Brooklyn. And the Who's Who in baseball was sold for a quarter. It had all the pictures of every player, and there were 16 teams at that time.
Right.
2,500 teams, 400 players, and pictures of all of them around the bases and everything where they played. And I got a nickel a book. So I had a little Newsweek apron that holds nickels, dimes, and quarters. Yeah, I get your Who's Who here. Photos, stories, records of each and every player. Yeah, I get your Who's Who here. And it was beautiful.
Yeah.
And people came. So they always had me stay right by the box. They told me the best place to stay by the box seats. Box seats in those days was $2.50.
Wow.
The bleachers was 50 cents, you know, and the grandstand was $1.25. But anyway, here I am, get your Who's Who here, and then there's a couple, and they're looking at their watch. They're waiting for another couple. They got 4 box seat tickets for $2.50 a piece. And the other coming, hey kid, you know, they finally decided the other couple's not coming. Hey kid, you want to go? Oh yeah, mister, how many tickets you got? 2. Oh, give it to me. I'll get my friend. I'll meet you in there. So they give me the 2 tickets. And once I see them go through the turnstile and go in, I go to the front thing and I cash them in. Because as long as the game hasn't started, you know, I just made $5.
Yeah.
And I get in for free anyway after the first inning at the grandstand. The guy lets us in. So
that was a great story.
I was making so much money. You got to remember, in that era, the minimum wage was 75 cents an hour.
Yeah.
So most guys on my block that were 18 and that, they made $30 a week. You know, I was making $40-50 a week. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't even work 40 hours. You know?
Yeah.
But now the game is over, and people are coming out, and I'm on a spot. Yeah, get your who's over here, and the crowd is pushing. You know, and the guy hands me $1, and I hand him the book, and I go into my apron. I get 3/4, but I only throw it up this high. And he's going, and the crowd goes, thank you. And that's another 75-cent tip. You know, that happens 3-4 times a day, you know.
Oh,
that's another $3, you know.
Wow.
So what a day I'm having, you know. Plus I sold about 100 books, 40 in the morning and 60 in the end. So there's another $5 commission. And that was beautiful. What a great time it was. Now the best part is now I sold the books.
Right.
I turned in the book money. And I run into the stadium, and they have the scorecards there, a little 8-page thing, 10 cents a scorecard, and a lot of people just bought it to sit on. So I start picking them up. And the work crew that's picking up, cleaning up, hey kid, get out of here, you know. They can't catch me. I got my sneakers on. Besides, I knew that stadium better than they knew. You know, wherever I run, I knew where.
You know where to hide.
They didn't no way they could catch me. And anyway, now I get home. I got about 80 scorecards, and when I get them, I go to the best ones, and I got 50 good ones. They look like brand new. You've never been touched. And the only thing in those days that changed was the pitcher. You know, the lineup pretty much stayed the same in those days. Yeah. You know, and so the next morning I'm on the L and on the platform there before they go down, and scorecard here 10 cents, scorecard here 10 cents, and they're buying. You know, and now. When they come down, and if they're looking at it, and there's Murphy the cop, you know, and he sees them, so he starts tiptoeing trying to catch me, you know.
Because he knows what you're up to.
Up there.
Murphy the cop.
As soon as I see his blue pants,
boom.
Over the other side down, I get my Who's Who books, and then about 5 minutes later, he comes up. I know that was you, you little punk. I know that was you. Officer Murphy, I would never do that. I would never do that. He never caught me. 45, 46, 47. He never caught you. Never caught me.
Oh, that's funny.
And that was good. And now, after I collected the scorecards on that same day, now we waited for the players to come out. And what a treat. In those days, and they're in their civvies, they're going to their cars or to the train, and there's Bill Dickey. Was
a star.
Every Yankee you can think of was, and every other visiting players too.
Sure.
But there's Bill Dickey. He was a Hall of Fame catcher. He's the one that taught Yogi Berra how to catch.
Yeah.
Okay. And I could just say, okay, you kids, just get in the line. And then finally, when it was my turn, I still remember the smile he gave me, you know, and all of that.
And signed.
And while we're on autographs.
Yeah, we're going to take a brief break.
Okay.
Eddie's got some great stories, and we're going to talk about sort of your colorful past as well, prior to becoming a Christian. We'll be back with Eddie Blackwell right after these brief messages. Hello, I'm Dale Davidson. I hope you're enjoying Las Vegas tonight. The guests we've had on the program are wonderful examples of Christians who take seriously Christ's command to love one another. In addition to the hundreds of television stations across the United States now carrying our show, we have been presented with the outstanding opportunity to bring these inspiring stories to people around the world. An international satellite network in the Russian and Ukrainian languages has asked us to provide them with episodes to be broadcast to millions. To make a gift to support this very special effort, please send your check or money order to Dale Davidson Ministries, 9030 West Sahara Avenue, number 255, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89117. To use your credit or debit card, call 702-480-3989. Thank you, and God bless you. Welcome back to Las Vegas Tonight. We have a fascinating guest. He's been very amusing as well. Eddie Blackwell, who's been talking about the Bronx back in the 40s when he was a young guy. So it sounded a little bit as you were talking about the stories of helping yourself do a little bit of that and a little bit of the other thing, and that you were embarking on a life of crime in a way, weren't you? Yeah.
Later on, yeah.
Yeah, tell me about gambling and how that habit started. You began gambling at a really young age, didn't you?
Very young age.
Yeah.
Now, my mother said she annulled the marriage to my father. I'd never seen my father. I was raised by my grandmother and my mother. And my father was a gangster. She annulled it because he was a gangster or something like that.
Yeah.
So I just grew up without it. So anyway, when I was about 10, in a street crap game, right on our block, we had all the time, I won about $30, you know.
Which is a lot of money for a kid.
Here, Mom, you know, well, where'd you get that? I said, oh, you know, innocent. I won it in the crap game. Oh, my God. He's got his blood, my father's blood on. Who knows what she was thinking? I had no clue why she got
why she was upset,
you know. After that, I didn't anything I won and everything or made, you know.
Yeah.
And so every Friday, we had dollar savings bank at school.
Right.
And our parents had already signed the thing, so they were in control of the account, which I didn't really realize at the time. But they would give their kids a quarter, 50 cents for the dollar bank. And, you know,
right.
I'm putting 30, 40 bucks in there because I figured, well, I don't want to go through that again. You know, I just
with
wanted
Mom,
20,
yeah.
30, and I made a lot of money at the thing. So I was putting it in there. But that's for another thing. We'll just stop there for a minute. And then in our neighborhood was a big garage, it was mafia neighborhood, the whole school. And here it is lunchtime, and we're playing craps right in the street there for quarters, nickels, dimes. And the bell rings, we got to go back to school. I said, I'm not going back. I'm going to go up to the garage. And there's the garage. And there's Big Louie with a big cigar. He wears a fedora hat. He nods at me, and then I go, you can't go in there. I said, Tony said I can go in anytime. Tony was the big boss of all the whole area.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead. You know, I mean, this is really a typical Hollywood movie of New York.
Yeah.
And so I go in, and there's about 6, 7 guys there, all with hats and cigars, and we play craps on the floor. And 2 of the guys see me, and they say, hey, Tony, what's with the kid? Like, get rid of him, you know? He says, he's okay, he stays. They shut up.
Yeah.
Because if Tony says it, there you go. They're lucky they're in there. Tony's letting them in.
Yeah.
And Tony just said, yeah, come on in, kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now we're playing, and the guy's shooting. I said, $5 with him. And before you know it, I had $40, you know.
Right.
I'm going to leave. And some of the guys that are losing, hey, you can't leave. I look at Tony. Tony says, go ahead, kid. And that's it. They shut up. And I only figured that he did that because he knew my father. He knew I was Harry's kid.
Oh,
even though I
okay.
didn't know I was Harry's kid, you know. And because to come to kids that were in my class, their fathers were mobbed up. You know, they were either runners or whatever.
Yeah.
And
in the numbers game.
they were never allowed in that garage. For some reason, I was the only one. So I didn't think about that till years later. Anyway, now let's go into the criminal thing. Then by accident, I stabbed this kid and went to a Catholic reform school.
Yeah, yeah.
And
how did that happen? How did you accidentally stab a kid?
Well, I was on my way to Yankee Stadium, and this kid stops me and he says, hey, you got a penny? Like he wanted to buy a soda or whatever.
Yeah.
And usually I haven't. Oh, I got no change, you know.
Yeah.
Sorry. I keep walking, and he curses at me. Calls me all kinds of names. I ain't got time to go chase him, you know. And I went to Yankee Stadium. Anyway, here it is, 3 or 4 days later. I'm carving a piece of wood. I got a big switchblade knife, and I'm carving a piece of wood. And my buddy is saying, come on, let's play hooky. I said, oh, man, I'm taking so many half days off, and I got so many things. Then I see the kid that cursed at me. I said, well, wait a minute. And I threw the wood away, and I went over there, just allowed the knife there. But I just wanted to, like,
scare
him.
him.
Now who's all of the names he called me. And instead he fell right into the knife. And went to his lung or something like that. But anyway, he went down, and his sister saw me. And I just let him down. I went back across the street, and I said, hey, man. And then the bell rang to go back to school. I said, I'm going. I said, see you later. And I was smart enough to put the knife in my sock, in my shoe. Anyway, about 2:30, the bell monitor comes and says, that principal wants to see you downstairs. So we go downstairs, and as soon as I walk through the door, 2 detectives grabbed me, and they scared me so much. It was like, what are you talking about? You know, but they didn't check my shoe. They were looking for the knife, you know, figuring I had the knife. They said, your sister saw you do it. I said, I didn't do nothing, you know. The bell rang, it was 3 o'clock. They said, well, go ahead home and stick around the house, you know.
So they're going to check it out.
And whatever they were going to do.
Yeah.
So as soon as I got out of school, I threw that knife away in an empty lot. And so when I get to my block, some kids wanted me to be the umpire to the 10-year-old kids, because like I said, we got 300 kids on our block.
Right.
And so I'm going there to ump their game, and all of a sudden a kid comes on, hey, Eddie, the cops are there looking for you, you know.
Uh-oh.
They made it sound like SWAT, you know. We didn't have SWAT in those days. But so here's all of the players, the 20 kids with gloves, and they're going to follow me like the Pied Piper. And then we go to the detectives there, and he says, hey, Eddie, we have to take you to the hospital, you know. They want it for identification. So we get to the hospital. This is like a movie. We go through the door, and there's an oxygen tent, and there's a priest praying over this kid.
Oh,
Richard.
no, yeah.
His name was Richard. And so then they let me in, and they said, Richard, is this the boy? He said, yeah. But he didn't die. Thank God he didn't die.
Yeah.
And so now they bring me into the Bronx shelter. This is like a county jail for juveniles, you know, up to 16. So it's 7 o'clock at night, so they bring me upstairs to where the beds are, and there's like army cots and everything. And there's some kids, yeah, some of them were 15, 16 years old. And these Puerto Rican guys were there, and I remember Louis Cruz was there, not the other Cruz, but Louis Cruz.
Yeah.
And he says, hey, what you in for, man? You know, stabbing a dude, you know. And
like you were hot stuff.
Now, you know, the next morning we get to talking. He's one of 4 Puerto Ricans that stabbed this black guy, and he was from the Brockets. And this black guy from the Copians, they stabbed him to death 60 times. I mean, the dad died right in front of his father. And so that's what they're in for. And I walked in like,
I'm a tough guy.
Like I was a bad dude. But, you know, that's the persona you had to put on in those days, or probably still to today.
Yeah.
And anyway, we became friends and everything. And the funniest part about that was, all of a sudden, 2 big Copians come in. These guys were 16. You got to remember, I was only 12. And the Rockets asked me, he says, are you going to help us? We may have some trouble. I said, yeah, no problem. Anyway, all of a sudden, the next day, something's going down. The words were said. And I was getting ready to go help, and all of a sudden, this one Copian picked me up and threw me in the corner. He says, you stay out of it. It's none of your business, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I'm only 12 years old, you know. Anyway, the cops broke it up real quick. And before you know it, they must have shipped those guys out or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
how did you graduate to the more serious adult crimes?
Now, 15, I get married at 15.
Yeah.
And now I'm about 17. And I still gamble and everything like that, and I meet 2 good guys. Good guys. They're in their 20s, and we're sticking up payroll officers. In those days, a big factory had like 100 employees, and they got paid by cash in an envelope. And like I said, most of them $30, less than $1.50 taxes. They got $28.50 or something.
Right.
But it was $28.50 in an envelope, and hundreds of envelopes, you know.
Right.
Depending on the size of the thing.
Right.
So the Brinks truck would come. And I say Brinks armored truck would come, and we would wait for them, and they'd drop it off at the office. And as soon as they were gone, we walked in and said, "Okay, give us the payroll." And we would.
And this was a gun.
With a gun.
Yeah.
And
armed robbery is serious stuff.
You know, you got to remember, it was only 3,000, but it was a whole lot of money for us. You know.
Yeah.
And we got 1,000 apiece, and so that kept me going. And then all of a sudden one day we were doing that, and I was gambling. And one day they said, "Eddie, we're leaving. Where you going?" "Well, we're going to Florida and then Atlanta, Georgia, or something. They got a post office or something like that." I said, "Well, how can I, Eddie?" This was 1954. I had 1 kid already, and was born in 52, and here it is, 1954, in the summer, and my daughter was going to be born, and the second daughter was going to be born in October. So I said, "Eddie, you got a wife, you got kids, you got one on the way. You got to be home. Once you become a, you know, they're always gambling and everything."
Yeah.
And I said, oh man, I was so downhearted, and they left. And they did it out of consideration. I mean, you know.
It was nice of them to think about you that way.
So after they left, I went on a roll. Like I could do nothing. Every bet I made, I was winning. Well, not every bet, but mostly everything. Then all of a sudden, December, January, after Christmas, all of a sudden, I couldn't buy a bet. I couldn't win,
Yeah.
And I was betting enough where they gave me a lot of credit, So I said, yeah, give me 150 on the Yankees, give me 200 on the Tigers, and it was no problem, Now all of a sudden, I owed, altogether, I owed about $8,000. And I went to Shylock to borrow money.
Yeah.
So I owed him. And I owed 3 different bookies all of this money, $2,000 here, $1,500 there. And finally, one day when I said, yeah, well, give me this. He said, no, Eddie, you don't get no more bets. You better have the money by Friday. This was like a Tuesday. And you better have some money. I said, oh, man, what am I going to do? My buddies ain't here. So I started casing banks on 149th Street there, big area, like a main street almost in the Bronx. And I looked at a commercial bank because I figured I'd be safe with that. Commercial bank, and they ain't got tellers, but I don't know, but I was going to hit that.
Right.
And here it is, Thursday night. I'm sitting in O'Neill's bar, and in O'Neill's bar is all kinds of other. And I was hoping some of those guys might have had something for me.
Yeah.
A score to do.
Yeah.
And no luck. And then all of a sudden, here comes my 2 ex-partners. Anyhow, and I tell them my plan of woe. They were going to give me $1,000 each.
Yeah.
Give me $1,000. And I told them how I owed about $8,000. And they looked at each other, and I didn't know what, they didn't give me no money I was just telling them. And they said, we'll be right back. And they left. And they came back with $10,000.
Wow.
I still want to cry to this day.
Wow.
What a feeling. They came back and they said, here, Eddie, we had a great time. They I don't know what they did, but they
were robbing somebody or something.
They did $30,000, $40,000 scores,
Yeah, yeah.
And so they gave me the $10,000. Oh my God! So
Wow.
the next day I go back to my, hey, what do I owe you?
And you got to pay him off.
Yeah. The guy said, $1,800. and I just remember they looking at me like they figured they were either going to break my legs or whatever they had to do.
Yeah.
To squeeze some money out of me. And
but all of a sudden you're flush.
And I am. And here, give me 200 on the Yankees. And I leave, and I go to each one, and I go to the Shylock, and I pay them off. And
yet here you are gambling. Yeah, we need to take another brief break.
Okay.
We'll be back with Eddie Blackwell right after this.
Drawn by the lights, glamour, and opportunities in Sin City, they come from all over the world, searching for their chance to be a pretty woman, a success, or maybe just to have a better life. Be somebody. What happened after they got here is literally changing the world. From the story of Tommy Scott, a former gang enforcer turned Christian evangelist, to the Hookers for Jesus Outreach Ministry, to the heart-wrenching story of Arturo Martinez and his heroic act of forgiving the man who assaulted and murdered his wife and 10-year-old daughter. Las Vegas Tonight presents an extraordinary depiction of Las Vegas as a city of transformation, from Sin City to Vegas Saints. Las Vegas Tonight, from Sin City to Vegas Saints, a collection of true stories of transformation, people whose lives were transformed, and people who are now transforming the world.
Welcome back to Las Vegas Tonight, and my fascinating guest, Eddie Blackwell. Eddie, during the last segment, you were the recipient of an unexpected gift of cash, and you were paying off the bad guys, weren't you? Tell me what happened after that.
That part went beautiful, and then about a year later, I moved to California.
Yeah.
And I'm out in California, and believe it or not, I'm legitimate, and I get a job. I'm working in a supermarket, and I'm the third man. I'm like the assistant manager, assistant to the assistant manager.
Right.
And I have the key. I close up the store at night, and I have the keys to the safe and everything like that.
Right.
So, all of a sudden, I'm doing fine, everything. I still gamble. I go to the track, and I come to Vegas, and stuff like that. And,
right.
And I steal a little bit of their cigarettes, and I had a thing on the side. But All of a sudden, I get a phone call from the girlfriend of one of my old partners. And they said, they're in the joint. They're not in the joint, they're in the county jail, and they need lawyer money and all of that. I said, wow. I didn't have much. I called some friends. And so I went home to my wife, and I told her, I said, I got to take all the money out of the safe and bring it to them. So that day that I did, I got a plane ticket to New York, midnight, going out midnight. It was like a Thursday night. And Thursday was a big money day where the Brinks truck came in. And
okay.
A lot of the teachers in that area, they cashed their check, and they had big checks because they get paid by the month.
Oh, okay.
Steel workers, we had steel factory people that were near there. This is in Ontario, California.
Okay, I know where that is. Yeah.
And not far from there was Kaiser Steel or some other places and like that. But anyway, so I started work at 1 to 10. And so when I go to lunch at 4 o'clock, I took I think it was $3,000 out of the safe and brought it home. And told her to put it up in the freezer and, and this and that.
Hide this money.
And I had my stuff, I had my bags packed for the airport. And so I go back, and as soon as I come back, I go buy a box of Ritz. And I said, my wife wants it, so I said, I paid for it right there, and they stipple the receipt that I paid for it.
Yeah.
So this way, I'm not taking it for,
Right.
Well, I put the Ritz in the office. The office is, you can't see in, but we can see out.
Right.
And I dumped the Ritz in the thing, because this is where I'm going to put the dollars, the money. I dumped the Ritz crackers in the trash. Anyway, 6 o'clock comes, and the first girl's leaving. So she brings her tray in, and we count it out. We leave $150 in the tray. The rest goes in an envelope, and I'm going to put it in the safe. I said, okay, good night. Anyway, I take all the green, put it in the Ritz box, And
right.
A lot of ones and stuff like that, but 5s and 10s, 20s. And I put the tray back in the safe, and then the next girl leaves, and the next one, and so I do that, and I cleaned out the money order thing and everything like that. And I made money orders out and paid a whole bunch of things in advance, because the money order money, I was stealing it anyway, so I might as well steal a whole check. And so that helped me pay a lot of bills. Anyway, and one of the checkers said, hey, can I cash my check? I said, well, they're going to take my money now. I said,
That's the way you're looking at it.
I let one checker cash a check. Most of the other people that had big checks, I told them, I'm sorry we didn't get our Brinks truck today, but we'll give you a money order.
Yeah.
We'll give you $50 and a money order. And most of them went along with that.
Yeah.
Now it's finally 10 o'clock. And my buddy, my drinking buddy, he wants to go drinking. I said, I can't, Well, what kind of excuse have I got for him? And I said, you remember that girl that always buy, the nice, beautiful woman that always buy the meat guy? She flirts with the meat guy. Huh? Oh my, you got a date with her? Oh my God. Yeah. Oh, good luck. So I got him out of that. But now he's got a little Volkswagen and he wants to rent the rug machine, the big rug machine. I'm trying. So I help him. I'm trying to push the thing.
You're not helping me with my getaway.
My getaway. So now I finally get out. I hit the freeway, get to the airport. My brother-in-law, who was supposed to be there during working hours, I wanted to give him $500 worth of quarters, a whole bag of quarters.
Right.
And because I wasn't going to mess with the quarters,
Right.
And he never came up. So anyway, I gave him $1,000 to hold for his sister, my wife, and my other buddy, another Jimmy, was there, and I gave him $1,000. I said, if he ever needs it,
right.
Give it to her. And then I jumped on a plane and went to New York. My best buddy owns a bar in New York. He was a boxer, Jimmy Archer.
Right.
And we grew up together. We were in the reform school together, in the Catholic reform school together. And he was a great boxer, and his brother Joey fought for the middleweight title. But anyway, he owns a bar there, and he says, what are you doing here? And I told him. And now, this is how good of a friend he is, but he bum kicked me, and he says, you're going to give up your kids and this? You're going to go to jail for these guys? And what about your wife and your kids and all that?
Yeah.
Oh, man, did he bum kick me. And anyway, thankfully his wife was having a baby, so I didn't get to see him much. And so then I just went back to Vegas. You know, I stayed the weekend, and main thing is I got the money to the lady, the girl, and I gave her 10 grand, and I got that. So I got about 18,000 out of the safe. So now I'm going back to Vegas, and
gonna raise some more stakes here.
I'm going to see if I. But he had an idea. He says, "Why don't you give yourself up and turn the money in?" You know. Yeah, well, I want to give it all back, you know. So I get back to Vegas, and it's so funny. I'm on a roll, and here comes the guy. I was at the Thunderbird. Remember the old Thunderbird hotel?
Yeah.
And I'm winning about $4,000, and then here comes the casino. I said, "Oh man!" And he says, "Oh, can I just help you? Where are you staying?" You know, I said, "Well, I'm going to check out, but I'll be back." And he said, "Well, why don't you stay here at our suite?" You know, and I said, "Well, no, I'm happy where I am," and you know.
Right.
But I said, "Oh, whew, that was close." And they did have my flyer there on me, okay. And I went to another place. I called my brother-in-law up, and he comes down to Vegas, you know, and
to see you.
And he's with me, and then he's bum kicking me too and crying. And, I said, "Here, go back." And I give him a grand, and I say, "Here, go back. Give that to your sister." And then I went on a losing streak, you know.
Oh yeah.
And the last night I went to the desert.
That always happens, by the way.
Old desert, naturally, you know.
Yeah.
Then I go to Caesars, and I think I was down about 5,000, and I just kept feeding it, you know.
Yeah.
Before I know it, I walk out, and I had maybe 1,000 or two in ones and fives, you know.
Yeah, but the rest of it was gone.
All the big money was gone now, and I said, "Oh man." So I'm going back to California, and I said, "Well, maybe I'll try to build it up at the racetrack or something like that." And I don't know why I went back.
Yeah.
Anyway, they caught me, and I went to the joint for that.
Yeah. So you were in jail for a long time, weren't you?
3.5
years. Yeah. Now,
but I didn't feel bad. I honored what they saved my life.
Yeah.
And so, theoretically, I paid my dues. I paid it back.
Yeah.
And,
so
there's good stories to talk about while I was in the joint.
Yeah.
All the money I made in the joint. But that's another whole story.
Yeah, we'll bring you back for that. Let's talk about the Chaplain's Bookstore and your hopes and dreams in that area.
Okay, this is most important. God put it on my heart 8 or 9 years ago, and as you know, I did start the bookstore, and I had about 4,000 books then.
All Christian books.
All Christian books.
Yeah.
And everything that. And I had to close it, and it's been like over 3 years now that it's been closed. And I put all the books into storage. They're set up just like a store, all racked and everything.
Right.
Now I got 5,500 books.
Wow.
And you got the Joyce Meyers and the Max Lucados and Joel Osteen, you name it. Over 800 different authors.
Sure.
And but it's not just a bookstore. I want to get a building, okay? And try to picture this, a building, just one big building, maybe 20,000, 30,000 square feet. And in it, it has a coffee shop. You come in and you fellowship with coffee. And it's open 24 hours. Okay, you have the coffee shop. Then you have the bookstore with all the books. And then you have Bible study rooms.
Right.
24-hour Bible study room. At 3 in the morning, they got
a 24-hour town, yeah.
They have a study on Beth Moore or this or that or whatever. And there's a lot of the local churches like Central Christian, the Heart of Nehemiah, Canyon Ridge. Beautiful. ICLV.
Right.
Beautiful books that they wrote back in 2002, 3, 4, 5. And these are great study books, Bible study books.
Right.
They could be sent in there. And I wanted to be an annex for all the churches in town, A
neutral place, and
we have
a place where kids can hang out, and you're going to
and like at 3
sell
o'clock in the afternoon when the kids get out of school, come on over. They got ping pong tables. They got a movie room. You can watch God's Not Dead. Well, I love that song.
That's
God's
a great
not
one.
dead. He's truly alive.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's great.
That thing haunts
That's
me,
great.
that thing.
Eddie, I'm sorry to say that we're out of time. Please give your telephone number out, so if anyone can help Eddie either with financial help or volunteer help, or they have an idea where he can place this bookstore, the closer to the Strip, the better, I would say. Please give Eddie a call. And why don't you give everybody your number?
Okay, 702-812-2240. 24 hours. You call me anytime. And you got to remember, all these people get off work at 2, 3, 4 in the morning. Place for them to come. Have coffee. Have a Bible study.
Wow.
Gift shop. Everything. At a sanctuary.
Yeah. Eddie, you got a great heart. You're a great, great man. It's Eddie Blackwell on Las Vegas Tonight. Thank you, Eddie. Thanks for coming. We appreciate it. And as I close out every show, in speaking about our Lord and Savior, please walk with Him.
Potential audience of more than 50 million people is reached every week by Las Vegas Tonight. To keep the important message of Christ's love on the air, we need your prayers and financial blessings. Please send your tax-deductible gift to Dale Davidson Ministries, 9030 West Sahara Avenue, number 255, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89117. For a donation of $25 or more, we'll send you a copy of Dale Davidson's new book, Las Vegas Tonight, From Sin City to Vegas Saints. You'll love these inspiring stories of Las Vegas Christians who are changing the world. Or donate to the ministry, or order Dale's book by going to vegassaints.org. That's vegassaints.org. Or call us today at 702-480-3989. That's 480-3989. God bless you.
Hello, I'm Dale Davidson. I hope you're enjoying Las Vegas Tonight. The guests we've had on the program are wonderful examples of Christians who take seriously Christ's command to love one another. In addition to the hundreds of television stations across the United States now carrying our show, we have been presented with the outstanding opportunity to bring these inspiring stories to people around the world. An international satellite network in the Russian and Ukrainian languages has asked us to provide them with episodes to be broadcast to millions. To make a gift to support this very special effort, please send your check or money order to Dale Davidson Ministries, 9030 West Sahara Avenue, number 255, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89117. To use your credit or debit card, call 702-480-3989. Thank you, and God bless you. Hello, I'm Dale Davidson. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Las Vegas Tonight. Allow me to take just a few moments to let you know how you can learn more about some of the fascinating guests that I've interviewed. My new book, Las Vegas Tonight, From Sin City to Vegas Saints, is now available around the world. In it, I profile amazing people who make Las Vegas something much more than just a place to party. These compelling stories often tell of people who came to Las Vegas for reasons much different than the innovative ministries they ended up leading right here in Sin City. Take, for example, Tommy Scott, known as Hitman to his fellow members of an infamous gang in South Central Los Angeles. Tommy was serving time in a Las Vegas jail and contemplating suicide when a couple of pastors visited him in the lockup and led him to Christ. Tommy immediately began studying the Word and has become an on-fire evangelist and Christian author. Then there's Annie Meadows. Annie began life in a rural part of Kentucky, increasingly was fascinated with the occult, and eventually became a full-fledged witch. Rejecting anything having to do with God, she angrily vowed never to attend church or have anything at all to do with religion. Then, like Tommy, she had an encounter with the living Christ and now travels the world as a gospel singer and writes Christian children's books. Pastor Chris Chappell was an avowed atheist who also wanted nothing to do with the Lord. He was a successful businessman who felt he surely didn't need Jesus. His wife and father-in-law convinced him to attend church, and he felt a stirring that made him investigate the Bible's claims. Telling the Lord that he needed answers to his objections, he found those answers in a supernatural way and is now leading a remarkable church, Casa de Luz, in what's called the Naked City, which is a neighborhood just off the famous Las Vegas Strip. This formerly crime-ridden area is now experiencing a remarkable turnaround, and his church is serving that community in amazing ways. Doc Jones traveled to Las Vegas from New York on a personal mission to make as much money as he could. A born entrepreneur, he started a photography business that specialized in taking pictures of groups of partiers at the hot nightclubs on the Strip. He then learned that by referring young guys to the city's strip clubs, he could pick up lots of cash from the club's owners. That evolved into sending young women who were wannabe strippers to these so-called gentlemen's clubs, and then he managed their careers. Eventually, he felt so empty and despondent that he too thought seriously of suicide. Hearing a sermon about the prodigal son caused him to dedicate his life to Christ. Now an exceptional musician and composer of gospel rap, hip-hop, and spoken word genres, he is helping change Las Vegas from a place where sin abounds to a city where grace abounds more. Pastor Clegg Seth was an aspiring actor and screenwriter in Hollywood and a strong Christian who wanted to make a real difference for Christ in the entertainment world. But the Lord called him to establish a crisis hotline for runaway teens who were coming to Hollywood to pursue their silver screen dreams. He then started halfway houses for men and women with substance abuse and other problems. He also helped set up a similar men's home in Las Vegas. At one point, he developed a gambling habit, but the Lord delivered him from that problem, and he now devotes his life to sharing Christ with men in prison, serving seniors in a church setting, along with visits to nursing homes and hospitals. He has continued his quest to influence Hollywood through a ministry called the Christian Studio. I personally really look up to Clegg Seth as a model of how a Christian should live and serve others. He truly is one of the Vegas saints. Read these stories and more in this 226-page book, Las Vegas Tonight, From Sin City to Vegas Saints. You can get your copy in several different ways. Go to my website, vegassaints.org, or order it on Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. It's just $15.99 plus shipping. For more information or to make a donation to Dale Wynn Davidson Ministries that will help us keep this program on the air, please call 702-480-3989. Or you can write to us at Dale Wynn Davidson Ministries, 9030 West Sahara, Suite 255, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89117. And thank you so much for watching Las Vegas Tonight.
You've been watching Las Vegas Tonight with Dale Davidson. Send your tax-deductible gifts to Dale Davidson Ministries, 9030 West Sahara Avenue, number 255, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89117. Or call 702-480-3989. Thanks for watching.
Come on and shine, shine, shine. Las Vegas, shine your light on me.
Welcome to Las Vegas Tonight. Join award-winning host Dale Davidson as he interviews the most remarkable people you'll find in the entertainment capital of the world. You'll meet entertainers, sports figures, newsmakers, community and business leaders, and people just like you with stories that'll touch your heart. Now, here's Dale Davidson.
Welcome to Las Vegas Tonight. I'm your host, Dale Davidson. Each and every week at this time, we bring you fascinating guests. They're often from Las Vegas, not always, but often, and that's the case today. This is Eddie Blackwell. Eddie is a wonderful human being, a good friend. He's got some fascinating stories about his life and his journey with Christ. Eddie, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it very much. Nice to see you again.
Good to be here.
Yeah. You were on the program about 4 years ago, I think.
4 years ago, yeah.
And we talked about the Chaplain's Bookstore, which you were running at the time. Yeah. And you still have dreams about that. We'll get into that in a second. But you're a real solid Christian man. You do more than just about anybody I know. Let's talk a little bit about your ministries right now. You have a disability ministry, and you've done that for years.
My main one really is Johnny Erickson Tata and disability. So much to say about that. We wouldn't have. I could spend a whole hour just on it.
Yeah.
And then I have a bread ministry now, which came out of nowhere. And
where you're passing out baked goods and things like that.
Now I'm bringing it to churches and food banks and that. And it's incredible. I just love it. And then naturally I take people to doctors and everything.
Yeah.
Like I have to take someone this afternoon.
Yeah.
They go to a cancer doctor. And
wow.
And I'm just so grateful that God gives me the energy and the ability to do it.
Sure.
So many of these people I think they're stuck in their apartments and their houses. And so now. And
are lonely and they have needs and so can't drive, many of them. And
many of them can't drive.
And you're there.
And I'm there to take them. And especially when you got a place like Horizon Ridge or Tenaya.
Yeah.
Buses don't go that way. You might need 3 different buses and not even get close. And here I am, no problem.
Boom.
I'm right there. And I don't charge them.
Yeah, I know you don't.
Every now and then I get fortunate. They drop me some gas money, but it's not. God supplies it.
You've got a great handicap van.
And I got a handicap van that somehow
it still runs.
Putting some bandages on it, but it works. It works.
Yeah. Before you were doing this, you were a cabbie, but you drove a disability van for the cab company too, didn't you?
And that's the whole thing. How God blessed me when I came back to Vegas. And there's 150 guys ahead of me in seniority in the cab company.
Wow.
And what does he do? He gives me a brand new wheelchair accessible van with 4,000 miles.
Wow.
Then I wanted Saturday and Sunday off because I wanted to sell Christian t-shirts and the swap meet and everything.
Yes.
On the weekend.
Yeah.
And of the 150 ahead of me, at least 25 would have wanted Saturday and Sunday off, but I got it. So everything just was God just working there. I owed money in California, my master charges and that. And I would call up and I said, I'm sending you 200. And I said, how come? I said, always send more. How come I'm never going down? I said, send more. And how am I going to send more? I'm covered. I owed like $18,000 and just in a cab thing. But I got blessed with the cab. They would give me $20 tips, $50 tips, and I mean, it was just coming. God was watching over me. Then when that guy said, well, send more money, the next week the cab company said, all you wheelchair drivers, you don't have to pay for gas.
There
so
you
right
go.
there, that was 10 a day, at least 10 a day.
Sure.
So that's 50 a week, 200 a month. So they gave me the extra money that they wanted.
To send to the credit card company.
The funniest part is, after that, the regular drivers said, how come we don't get a gas allowance? So they said, okay, you guys, if you don't miss a day for 3 months, we'll give you a $500 bonus.
Wow.
So you got to be there every day, 5-day week. You got to be there.
Right.
But not that didn't include us because we had.
They were doing it anyway. Yeah.
So one day I came to work and they said your cab is in the shop. They gave me a regular cab, and so I drove the regular cab that day. And for that reason, I'm on the list for the regular cabs. So when the 3 months was over, my supervisor smiled. He was a Christian.
Yeah.
And he smiled, and all the guys were getting envelopes with a $500 check. And he says, come on, Eddie.
And he gave you one.
And he smiled, and they gave me $500.